Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for clicking on that. It means a lot to you guys keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making. And I put up a community post a few days ago, and I essentially asked for your guys' unpopular Survivor opinions. I've done this in the past, and I wanted to do it again for a while. So I'm going to go through today, give my opinion on your opinions. I know it's very meta. We got around 100 comments under that post, and we are going to go through the best of them and figure out, one, if they are an unpopular Survivor opinion actually, or if they're actually a popular one, and then two, if I agree with them or if I think they're absolutely stupid. Before we start, like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff because it's free, it's easy, and it really helps the channel out. Okay, so this first one says, Terry Dietz would be one of the greatest Survivor players of all time if he hadn't gotten a bad shake on his final 3 immunity challenge and didn't have to leave the game due to a family emergency. It's interesting. I really wouldn't respect Terry's game that much in Panama if he had won, had not really gotten screwed on that final 3 immunity challenge. Now, we'll say it would have been similar to like a Mike, right? I have Mike around the middle of the pack because of the fact that I don't really respect his post-merge, but I really respect his pre-merge. He had complete dominance of the entire game pre-merge, was throwing challenges, and it worked. On top of that, he controlled his swap and our original tribe, and I think that might be also how I feel about Terry, where he basically did that exact same thing for his pre-merge game. There's no such thing as an undeserving winner. If you make it all the way to final tribal and you are able to get the jury votes, then you definitely deserve to win. So this is a false statement as far as the second half of it. So he frames it in a way where it's like, how can you disagree with this? The second sentence, I'm going to read it again. I'm going to read it slower, and you're going to realize how stupid this sounds. If you make it to the end and you're able to get jury votes, then you should win. But duh, obviously, nobody who calls someone an undeserving winner is arguing that the jury's opinion shouldn't have mattered. What they're arguing is that the jury got it wrong, and you're ignoring that for the sake of your argument. It's smart, but it didn't work on me. Bandit's Survivor Content, a great friend of the channel. Go to check out his stuff. He makes great videos. He says, although a great season, the David vs. Goliath theme for season 37 was extremely unfair, having your standard people compete against extremely strong players. I would agree. I think it did have to do with people like Pat going out early, or getting obviously medevac. I feel like they just needed to cast more Pats on that tribe. Honestly, they got unlucky with Pat going out because he broke his back. But I think overall, it's not necessarily the most unfair thing in the world. There's more unfair things that have happened, I feel like. This guy says if LJ got the opportunity to play again, he would prove himself as one of the Survivor greats. I don't know about a Survivor great because, even if he won like a decent game, maybe like even like a top 10 winning game right now with his first game on his resume, I still don't think that puts him in Survivor greats territory. Someone like Sarah had to win to negate her first game and then play again and get super far in Winners at War and almost win there. So I think, to me, a win wouldn't really put him there. I will say, though, he had a lot of potential for his season, and if he wasn't going up against Tony, a player who's obviously like the best player of all time, I think he does have a good shot to do well. On top of that, I think that jury really liked him as well. So we'll see. This guy says Edge of Extinction is a top 5 season, and I actually like that Chris won. I can get kind of behind the second one. I feel like Gavin or Julie wins would have felt incomplete, although Gavin win would have felt fine to me. Fine is like meh. But I think so. I do think Chris's win felt more satisfying, I guess, because it was built up at least a little bit during the finale episode. But I would have preferred a Rick Devens win, because at that point it was so obvious that we all had become content with him taking an obvious win. So the fact that he kind of got pushed out at the last second after taking all of the screen time from Gavin and Julie, it's a tough situation for sure. This guy says, Island of the Idols is a great season, and without the Dan situation, may be one of the best ever. So I take one of the best ever to be top 5, and that's absolutely false. I think this season had a promising late pre-merge, and that's very specific. But I'll go overall. The pre-merge was pretty darn good. The premiere episode was kind of meh, but every other episode to me was very good during the pre-merge. Even like the Tom Laidlaw boot was at least fun a little bit, and definitely like the Jason and Jack boots were some of the best pre-merge tribals that I've seen ever. The issue is, as soon as it hits the merge, the season just loses all of its air. And after that, the best blindsides happen in the same episode when the merge tribe is split up, with Missy and Aaron, which isn't really like the real merge tribe. So to me, the merge tribe just added nothing to the season, and that's a big deal. So on top of that, it also had a very telegraphed winner as well. This guy says Final Four fire making is awesome and should stay forever as long as it's not a surprise like an HHH. This is interesting because although I do think that the fire in general should be a part of the end game, I think it only moves the game back one round. For an example, early on when it was just only final twos, the game was about getting out like the big threat at 3, right? And then as soon as the final 3 came into play, now that spot of getting the big threat out went back to 4. So now it's you get them out at 4. Then when the forced fire making came in, now that spot's now moved back to 5 or 6, which is really far back. So you're really just moving the game back, which to me doesn't really do anything, and it really just takes away from the natural way that the game is played. If JD returned for a second season, he would still not make the merge. I think it's possible. He's a pretty paranoid guy, but I think overall he could inch his way to the post merge. I don't see JD getting far in the game though. He's so likable that he either goes out pre-merge because people are so scared of him, or he gets to the merge because he's a GOAT and because he has no game and because people just don't respect his game at all. I think one or the other. So yeah, JD's just like too good for Survivor. I disagree with this one. I think Kelly to me is someone who was able to play the big idol play in Cambodia and then was able to use that to socially maneuver for the next 7 rounds of the game, which is really impressive. I think a big part of idol plays, and if they're impressive or not, is if you can use that extra round to then socially maneuver, and she definitely did that. Similar to how like Russell and Samoa really only had to use 1 or 2 idols, and besides that was able to socially maneuver to the end of the game. This guy says new school Survivor is far more entertaining than old school Survivor, which I would have to agree with. I think even though old school Survivor has the feel to it, has the better character development, has arguably the better casting, although that's kind of iffy. I think in the end, in a vacuum, if you told me you can only watch 21 through 42 or 1 through 20, I would have to go with 21 through 42. The gameplay is just better, and the things that I like about the show are more abundant. For this one, I would highly suggest you go watch the video in the top right corner, which is the video that I made after this happened, the day after, and I think it really does cover this question for about 8 minutes. This guy says, I don't give a shit about the woke stuff at all. It doesn't detract from the show for me. You know, that's one man's opinion. I disagree. I think to me it brings in things that shouldn't be in the show. I think the show should not be about politics. It shouldn't be surrounding politics. It shouldn't be done through politics. I think that's taking things that are outside the show and bringing them in. And I know everyone wants to call it a social experiment, and that's why it's allowed. And if that was true, I would agree, but it's not. It's not a social experiment. To me, it's a game. It's a sport. And just like how in the NFL, I feel like there shouldn't be politics, I think in Survivor, there shouldn't be politics. This guy says Dan from season 39 did nothing wrong, and I'm gonna have to disagree with this one. I think I'm all about the innocent until proven guilty. But the big thing here is that there's videotape evidence, like actual clips that they showed us in the show of Dan doing some pretty weird stuff. I don't know if it's sexual assault, and definitely not rape, but I think it's definitely bordering on sexual harassment, or at least just not a fun thing to experience at the very least. So I think it's worth calling out. It's worth kind of exposing that. I don't think it's necessarily worth blowing it up to the proportion that it was, but I think it's not just someone being, uncomfortable. It's definitely something more than that. And that's it for this video, guys. You guys want me to do a part 2 of this? I'll put it back up and you guys can put more unpopular Survivor opinions. In fact, if you want to start now, you can put them in the comments section if you have any more that you didn't see in this video. As always, none of this happens without you guys. Without you guys, I'm sure we're guys from a weird microphone. So as always, thank you. And if that's what, I'll talk to you guys in the next one.